I'm going to talk about fetch here, also known as fetch API. But before I dive into the code, I wanted to point out that fetch is built around using a JavaScript promise. So when you first write your fetch request, it's pending. Just like a real-world promise, you are waiting for it to be fulfilled. If it is, then you're going to do something with that data that comes back. But sometimes promises fail or get rejected. And when that happens, you want to catch the error so you can see what went wrong. So I'm over here at my code editor, and I have an index.html file and a JavaScript file. And in my JavaScript file, I wrote this function starting at line 1 with the purpose of taking my fetch response and inserting it as inner HTML for demonstration purposes. And it's going to appear in this web page in my browser. Going back to my code editor, let's start writing the fetch response. I'm going to write out my fetch requests. And make sure you type out your API URL fully inside of the fetch request. Now that this line is completed, the fetch is pending, and nothing will happen even if we get a response unless we then do something with it. So I start out by writing .then, passing through a function to take the response. Now, the common practice here is to either write out res as a shortcut for response or to write out the full word response. And now I'm going to return the response, and I'm going to call it the .json method, which is going to take the result and parse the text as JSON. Let me pause for a moment. What I like to point out is that there is more than one way to write this. One example is chaining an inner then method to the response.json statement. Either way, they are both going to resolve on successful completion, and then you're going to do something with this response. And it is good to see other yet similar ways of writing code programmatically that lead to the same result. But we're not done here. We have this JSON, and we need to take it a little further. And we're going to do so by writing another then statement. And on the second then statement, I can use any term I like to represent the data that I'm passing through here. And since this is JSON, I'm going to call it my JSON. And what I'm going to do next is call my make HTML function and pass my JSON through it. Now I'm going to head on into the browser and make sure this works. Now over in the browser, we can see I got a response, and here's my JSON data, and it's working. But what if it wasn't working? What should we do? Well, that goes to when a promise is either rejected or failed. So we need to write a catch statement just in case we have any issues. Going back to my code editor, the next thing we need to do to start the catch statement is to start with a .catch on the next line. And the only thing we have to pass through is an error. And we're going to just console log it so we can read it in either the browser or in the terminal. So this concludes the walkthrough of how to write a fetch request. Happy coding.